The government of Somalia says it wants all Ethiopian troops to be out by December 2024, which means this year. Hello, I am Mahlet Ayele, your host at Connect Africa, bringing you the latest from the continent. Now, this news came out from the Somalian government, asking for the Ethiopian troops to be all out by the end of this year. And there are thousands of Ethiopian troops. I think everybody is, speculating and, relating it to the current Ethiopia signing of the agreement, the memorandum of understanding with Somaliland for the access to the sea. But it's really important to ask a question: what is the historical background? So this is why I am here today. I will ask like 2-3 questions and I'm going to answer that. First of all, before we talk about that the Ethiopian troops in Somalia should leave, how did it end up in Somalia in the first place? Secondly, what happened now? Like what caused this announcement out of the blue, which even where the officials in Somalia, where the Ethiopian troops are based, do not even know. They are not communicated. The African Union is not communicated. So what is the intention? Number 3, what after? So if there is a certain military in one country, then after that, there must be a replacement, right? So these are the things I am going to look at. Now, here is, just to help us to see the Ethiopian soldiers in Somaliland. There are currently in 3 regions of the southern part of Somalia, which is namely you have in Jubaland, Hirshabelle, in the southwest. Those are the 3 places or the 3 areas where the Ethiopian troops are stationed in a peacekeeping mission for Somalia. Now, the important question, of course, to start with is that how did the Ethiopian troops ended up in Somalia? Now, as we all know, Somalia was one of those, the first or one of the first few countries which was stateless in 1991 after the Somali government collapsed. Now, during that time, the world, can we say that, didn't know what to do? Statelessness was not as much as we see today in Yemen, Syria, or Afghanistan, other countries. There are a number of countries today that we can point finger, but at that time, Somalia was the only, it's not the first one, but Somalia was the only one. So the world didn't do anything up until 2007, but right after the collapse of the government, the United States, of course, as usual, the United States laid, it's called a unified task force was there from 1992 up until 1994. Okay, so now this was interrupted. They did not stay the time that they have planned. It was interrupted in 1993. How did it happen? Because like one morning, everybody wake up to the news where the United States dead soldiers, the dead US soldiers' body was dragged on the street of Mogadishu. And that was a horror that they have to wake up with and the world. So after that, they did not stay until 1994, that mission, where they thought, first of all, if you ask why the United States led force was there, it's because, of course, always there is this humanitarian intervention where you intervene not with your peacekeeping mission, but like the army itself, because there was a natural resource that the US was interested. I'm sure some of you may have seen the Black Hawk Down movie. It was based on that the dead U.S. Army, on the streets of Mogadishu, but it shows you all. Hollywood movies are, if you really pay attention, they reveal what is going to happen or something what happened before and in which where we didn't have enough information. So they reveal info. It's like some kind of intel if you pay attention. So that film really tells you what was the intention behind that unified task force of the United States. So 1991, so I'm giving you the story, the historical background in a chronological order. 1991 was the collapse of the Somalian government. 1992 to 1994 was that UNITAF, or the Unified Task Force of the US, but it was interrupted with what happened in 1993. Then up until 2007, there was not so much going on. It was only in 2007 that the peacekeeping mission of the African Union by the name AMISOM came into a picture, or it existed. Now, if you ask what the world was doing up until 2007, after they saw what happened to the US Army, and they were afraid, nobody didn't, even the United Nations didn't want to do anything. Afraid might be an understatement. Actually, they didn't care if those, clan leaders of Somalia kill each other, or if the hunger kills them, or whatever. It's Africa. They didn't care. So the more they die, the more it makes the state more powerless, and the more they can just come at any time, do whatever they want. Or it can be also taken as a punishment. But you may say that what UN has to do with it, but we all know United Nations is led by those who sponsor it, countries like the United States and Europe, and in general by the West. So it didn't do anything. So the Somalis were by themselves, with the anarchy leaders here and there, the clan leaders, up until 2007. And of course, the African Union also has taken time to make a decision when they see that this United Nations, where all the countries of the world belongs to, didn't do anything. So they have to step in, and they established this peacekeeping mission in 2007, and it was actually funded by, not even by the United Nations, it was funded by the European Union. And this peacekeeping mission of AMISOM, initially established for 6 months, stayed up until 2022. Then that was when the AMISOM mission came to an end, because the European Union said enough is enough. I'm not going to fund this peacekeeping mission after this. When, there's always something. Even if they were funding it, it was not a free lunch. They get what they get from the Somali. All those powerful countries, they come and fish from the Somali ocean. Okay, that's how actually the Somali pirates were created. So they, by funding that mission, they can also secure when their ships come there and fish or do whatever they do, to loot the natural resources of Somalia. Now, in 2022, when AMISOM ended, the AU again, Somalia is a member state, cannot just leave it like that. So the AMISOM now transitioned to ATMIS. Now, ATMIS stands for the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia. So this ATMIS, its mandate comes to an end 2024 December. Okay, now that brings us to the story of today. So when the Somali government says, I want the Ethiopian troops out by the end of this year in December, of course, the ATMIS is coming to an end. And there is also now another agreement to replace it. But before we go there, just to tell what Ethiopia has done to Somalia, even when the AMISOM did not step in, there is a void part from 1993 up until 2007. Now, who was helping Somalia by that time when the Al-Shabaabs were doing whatever they want? It was the Ethiopian government. So the Ethiopian government, the Ethiopian National Defense Force, actually acted as the national defense force of Somalia. No one wanted. It was just in 2007 AU stepped in as AMISOM. So in 2006 and before that, Ethiopia has done its part to secure, of course, its own borders, because we share borders as well, but also to contain the problems of Al-Shabaab that were created after the collapse of the Somali government. Okay, so it was with sacrifice. This was not something with sacrifice, with the blood and sweat of the Ethiopian National Defense Force that has been, that they have been serving as the National Defense Force of Somalia. And if you ask in Somalia, in Mogadishu or outside of Mogadishu, they would tell you what the Ethiopian mission have contributed, particularly. Now, when AMISOM stepped in 2007, it was not just Ethiopia. Ethiopia was one of the countries, but there was Kenya, there was Djibouti, there was Burundi. First of all, of course, the neighboring countries are given the priority, and I think is Uganda as well. And there was one Western African nation. So it was a contribution of all kinds of military from the neighboring countries. That's how it was done. Now, fast forward, this ATMIS comes to an end in 2024, right? So who is going to replace it? Now, before we go there, what caused really, if the Ethiopian National Defense Force, it has been rewarded so many times by the Somali people themselves, by officials of the places where they were assigned in Somalia. They are so much loved and respected. In fact, one of those few countries who contributed military that were really knew how to work with the Somalis and very well disciplined. I mean, it's not because I'm an Ethiopian, but this is something that the Ethiopian National Defense Force was awarded when they went to Burundi, when they went to there's another Eastern African country. So this has been the story of, they're the most disciplined National Defense Force. You may say otherwise. Yeah, I know our recent war in the northern part of the country, but I'm not even going there. So let me just give you a background. Now, this year, Ethiopian government has signed a memorandum of understanding with Somaliland. Okay, now that comes into the picture why for me to answer the question now, what is the intention for the Somali government to say that, okay, it ends in 2024 and I want all out those thousands of Ethiopian National Defense Forces from my country, from the territory. It is their right. First of all, let's be clear about it. It's first the Ethiopian National Defense Force or other countries who are contributing this peacekeeping mission in Somalia are there by the blessing of the Somalia government. The Somalia government came into picture when was it? 2022. It was recently, actually, like after 2020. So really, it is by the blessing, by the asking of the Somalia government, and then when it say leave, they will leave. Not only Ethiopians, but also other troops if asked. Now, I want to share with you, one of the officials, what they said about, the Ethiopian troops. Look, Ethiopia currently has thousands of troops operating in Somalia, mainly in the three states of Southwest, Jubaland and Hirshabelle, far from Somaliland. Some of these troops operate as part of the ATMIS mission, which I told you, now the AMISOM changed to ATMIS, while others are in the country under bilateral security agreements. Okay, there is also a bilateral agreement between Ethiopia and Somalia, and that's how also, it's serving and helping, since Somalia still did not still stand on its feet. They are helping also their national defense. If their national defense force was strong enough, then they don't need the peacekeeping mission in the first place. Okay, so now officials in the Jubaland, where those Ethiopian armies are there, where Ethiopian troops are stationed, expressed unease about the security advisor's announcement. Now, it says, quotation open, this will only benefit the Karwarij. Karwarij means, how they call the Al-Shabaab there. So Jubaland Deputy President Mohammed said, told the VOA, using Mogadishu's preferred term for Al-Shabaab, which is Karwarij. Karwarij, maybe I'm not pronouncing it good, but that's the name they give. So they are not happy about that. So the southwest state of Somalia Security Minister Hassan Abdul Kader Mohammed told VOA that Southwest administration officials are happy with the presence of Ethiopian troops. Now, this is in quotation, okay? This is what the Southwest state of Somalia itself said. So it's just the government in Mogadishu who is doing this, but where those troops are stationed, actually, they are not happy that the Ethiopian troops are leaving, because they know exactly with what they will be faced. Now, fast forward this year, Ethiopia has signed with Somaliland this memorandum of understanding that will allow Ethiopia for access to the sea, because Ethiopia, with its growing population exponentially, and for its economy and everything, it cannot continue to depend on paying the yearly increasing loan for Djibouti port. It needs to have one. It wants it, and it cannot depend 100% on the Djibouti port. So it has to look for an alternative. So it's both for economic import and export reason, and also for the naval base, to have a naval base, because everybody, even foreign countries means which are not African, are coming and having a naval base, and nobody's making any noise when they do it, but only when Ethiopia does so, the noise is coming. So Ethiopia, before landing on this memorandum of understanding, has went to Eritrea, also talked with Kenya, with the Lamu port, talked with Sudan, talked with Somalia, but this was the best alternative. So I have made videos about this. You can go and watch it, and maybe I will try to pin it in the comment section, how Ethiopia chose Somaliland. Now, so this is because the Somalians were not happy. So they think Somaliland is, technically, that it's part of Somalia, but Somaliland have been there for 30 years, independent, doing their own thing. When Somalia was stateless, Somaliland has its own government, and they always, if you go the historical background, in fact, Somaliland is divorced from Somalia. They were a state by themselves before the union of Somalia happened. But this is its own politics, the Somalis thing. So I'm not gonna go into it, and I have done also a separate video before when this memorandum of understanding was signed. Now, let's go to the last question, what really concerns us. Now, what after? Now, if there is such unease and happiness by the Somalis themselves that the Al-Shabaab will take over, what is the idea, what is the plan by the Somali government? So what they're saying is there will be an international troops contributed by both the African Union and others, starting from January 2025 for 1 year until December 2025. Now, Ethiopian force is also part of the AU, and also because of bilateral relation, Ethiopia also has a troop there. Okay, the one with bilateral has to withdraw, but the AU itself is not even communicated. Okay, they don't know about this, so the government is just talking like that. But in any case, this international, I will tell you what most likely be part of this international force that will replace from 2025. Now, in Somalia, you have the Turkeys. There is even called Camp Turk Somalia. There are the Emiratis, the United Arab Emirates. There is the US. If I just share with you, the US is in fact planning to have or have some of it already, 5, okay, 5 army bases in Somalia, okay? So it's like becoming no one's land. Just like Djibouti, you have a number of them. Also in Somaliland, you have the Gulf, the United Arab Emirates, you have Egypt wanted to have it, but it didn't happen, I think. And there are others, the Russians, the British. But when it comes to Ethiopia, then there is a lot of noise, which is really interesting. And in that memorandum of understanding, of course, Ethiopia agreed in exchange to recognize diplomatically the independence of Somaliland. So what happens after will be those international army groups, still not purely African. At least what they have is purely African, contributed by African countries. Now they want it, they want to sell it, their security. It's like leasing your security, if I can use the terminology of Brian Kagaro. He's a great Pan-Africanist, really. And leasing, he says in one of his interviews, like, stop leasing your security for foreign actors. So it's leasing their security for foreign actors as opposed to the neighboring countries. So I will leave it at that, and see what you will comment on this one. So what do you think of this? Is the Somali government right by saying, I mean, of course it's their right, but in terms of really right and wrong, what should have happened if those officials from the town where the Ethiopian troops are stationed say that they are not happy, then now Al-Shabaab will take over? Maybe you just should have consulted it. Let us know in the comment section, and thank you very much again for tuning in. If you did not subscribe to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, give it a like, and share the video with others. If you want to help us further, you can donate to our PayPal account. You can find it in the description section. Thanks again. And for me, it's a bye-bye. Greetings. Okay. Hello, Douglas Bello. I really hope you learned something. I was more interested to give you on the background, on the historical background. Ciao, ciao, and I'll see you on the next one.